welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach LA, your host, your favorite around the way therapist. Coach Law is in the building, broadcasting live from 98.1 The Urban Heat. And you know, we are impacting our community. We're impacting all of those that are listening through the iHeartRadio app, Facebook, YouTube, in any way that you are tuning in. We just thank you for being here. This is Radio with a Purpose. And once again, you're tuned into the Urban Heat 98.1 FM. Tonight, I have a very, very special guest with me. I'm super excited to have her here with me. And you guys may have noticed in my post that I said that she's an expert on bullying. Her name is Dr. Carol Brown, and she is a four-time published author. She's an artist and a songwriter, and she's the president, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, of La Rock Publishing House and La Rock Educational Research and Design. Additionally, for over 20 years, she was an educator and an administrator in a large public school located in Massachusetts. She addresses physical, social, and emotional issues that pertain to teen obesity, bullying, colorism, and racism at work and in communities. Can we please give a warm welcome to Dr. Carol Brown? Good evening, Dr. Brown.
Good evening. How are you, lady?
I'm wonderful. Look at you. We are just super excited to have you. I'm always excited about everybody, but I'm so excited to meet you. I'm always excited to meet other sisters of color that are doing amazing work in the community. As I said earlier, this is the Urban Heat 98.1 FM, and we are Radio with a Purpose. So we're always looking to bring people such as yourself on so that our listeners can be blessed and educated and learn more about you and who you are, what you do. I know you're going to give us more juicy information about who you are, Dr. Brown. So share some more about that. And as I told you, I always ask the magic question, which is, what does therapy mean to you?
Mm. Listen, thank you for having me on. For the audience, I'm glad to be here. Shout out to all you all, and I know you'll enjoy this conversation. What therapy means to me is therapy is a psychological means to an end. I
Mhm.
think that we all have strives and stresses in our lives, and sometimes we have positive stresses and sometimes bad stresses. But I think therapy is having that professional ear that's willing to help you um, with with the things that are going on in your life. They have although they're not a part of your family, they're not part of your main body, so they're going to give you their best advice. They have their own, they're not opinionated, they don't form judgment on you. So I think that's what therapy means to me.
Yes, yes. I think one of the key pieces to that is around not being judged, right? I
Yeah.
think most of us are so it's a big fear, right? To not be accepted and to be judged about our shortcomings, our weaknesses, or anything that we've ever done wrong. It's like no one wants to really be vulnerable in that way. And therapy allows you to take down the mask, to open up your heart, to be open to receive, because the world is a judgmental place. It's harsh out here, which, tonight we're talking about bullying. So we're going to get into that in just a second, right? But it's not an easy place often to navigate for so many reasons that we're going to explore and dive into in just a minute. Now, when we were talking earlier, I got a chance to sort of get to know you and your spirit and your
Okay.
vibe. I was like, you know what? Let me call her early because usually I know all my guests, but
Uh-huh.
this is the first time we've ever met. Um,
Yes.
which
And by
is
our conversation, you think we knew each other forever.
yes, right. And it's a milestone, I think, for me, because mostly every guest that I've had on thus far, I know them in some way, shape, form, or I've met them already,
Hmm.
networked, and got a vibe and was like, hey, you should come on my show. But
Uh-huh.
in this case, your publicist friend, Talise, who's also part of the radio station and has a new show, shout out to her and Ray
Wow.
Royale. They got a new show that's going to actually be starting this Tuesday right here on the Urban Eat. She said, I have a guest that I think would be great for you, Dr. Carol Brown. She brought me all your books. And I'm like, okay, she's a brown girl. So I know I want to find out more about her. So we literally just met tonight.
We sure
And,
did.
and I think one of the beautiful things about having this space and creating this platform, which you asked me earlier, what inspired me to do this, is to bring people like yourself, for me to meet new people, but it opens up such an array of opportunity for people to have access to people who look like you and I, who have alphabet soup, right? I got a lot of alphabet soup behind my name. And just you being a doctor in itself is just like phenomenal. So everybody in the chat, listening, let's give Dr. Brown some, thumbs up, likes. She's Black excellence all day long.
Thank
So we
you.
definitely are super excited to have you. We got a few people who've already logged in, so I just want to say hey to them. Sandra Jackson, Daniela, Vanessa, thank you guys for tuning in. They're saying hello to you, Dr.
But you know what it is, Coach Law? If I couldn't be a doctor, all of the listeners can do it too.
They can. They
You know,
really
they
can.
It wasn't easy, but you know what? Stick-to-itiveness works all the time.
Yes, yes. It makes it possible. We talk about different narratives, which we're going to go into your Bet on Self moment. Different narratives of needing to see people who look like me and you,
Yes.
right? Which gives hope and gives what we need so much in our community is just to see people who look like us doing different things, so that actually gives you the opportunity to see yourself in a different light, or to visualize something.
I can do it. You did it. I can do it
Yes,
too.
absolutely. So that being said, I told you a little bit about the Bet on Self moment, but there's always new listeners. So let me break it down for you.
Okay.
Bet on Self is a mantra.
Uh-huh.
It's a lifestyle,
Okay.
right? And it's a mindset. And what it really is, it's a spin on self-care. It's a spin on having a high self-worth. It's knowing your worth. It's a decision to prioritize yourself. It's a decision to say, I'm not going to just keep saying that's just how I am. I'm not going to allow what I've been through to dictate my future. It's that moment where you go, you know what? Nah, I'm not doing this no more. That moment where you say, you know what, if I don't do this, it's never going to be done. It's that moment where you decide to save yourself and stop waiting for someone to save you. It's that moment where you decide to go after that dream, that goal, something that you're afraid of. You decide to push past your comfort zone. That's what Bet on Self is all about. So I always have to explain it, because some people go, well, what does that mean?
Well, I asked the question too. I didn't know. To be honest, I didn't know what it meant either initially. I did not know.
Yes. But I don't know about anyone else. I started to get, I don't know. I just thought everybody's saying, practice self-care. You need to practice self-care, self-care. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean to practice self-care? So that's where the Bet on Self concept came from, which was, I need to be able to rely on me and show up for me. First and foremost, not that you don't have a support system. Not that people are not there for you, because some people misunderstand that I'm saying you don't need nobody. Like,
We all need somebody.
I'm actually saying the opposite, which is to speak up when you need something, to be vulnerable, right? That's what Bet on Self is about. It's about having those difficult conversations and being okay. It's about emotional responsibility, right? Understanding that you can't be responsible for everybody else's feelings and reactions. You can only be responsible for you.
So,
right? Yeah. So tell me, what's your Bet on Self moment now that I broke that down and dropped the mic?
Since you broke it down and dropped the mic, the first thing you said something very interesting in that conversation. You just said people knowing their worth.
Yes.
If you do not know your worth, people will dictate to you what your worth is, and it's usually less than. You remember you had math in school was greater than and less than. It's always less than, because people are always trying to step over to make themselves shine. So once a person understands their self-worth, everything else is okay. My Bet on moment for me, I had several of them. The first one I had is when I was a single mom, and I decided to bring up my kids in middle class. Took a lot. was a lot of hustle, a lot of striving, a lot of this. And I was a full-time student at Northeastern University, so it was kind of hard. But I told myself, I'm not going to have a generation of poverty in my house. I want to make these kids know that there's another life besides poverty. There's a middle class life, and we're going to be in it. And I instilled that in them. As far as education, I became a doctor because a student bet on me, said, Miss Brown, you can't be a doctor because all doctors are old and they're ugly and da 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 da.
No, they did not.
He
No,
did.
they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't know who they was talking to, though.
So 4 years later, I saw him when he was in high school because he was starting middle school. He says, how you doing, Miss Brown? I said, no, it's Dr. Brown.
Ooh.
You still look, he told me, he says, you know what? If you can do it, I'm going to do it. He didn't say he was going to try. He says he's going to do it. And he's an attorney now. So he didn't go, he understood his self-worth. In reference to, as far as career-wise, I chose to go into education because the real reason why I chose to go into education is because I've seen so many kids graduate and not know how to read or write. And so I felt, and then when I was in school, I had my social work, my counselor social worker told me, don't take college courses. You're never going to make it in college.
Oh,
and so
wow.
I said, so what should I do? He said, well, you should be a hairdresser. So I went and got my hairdresser license, was very successful. And 2 hours listening to some of the conversations these people were having, I said, damn, I think I'm a little bit more intelligent than that. And so I went to Northeastern, and from Northeastern, here I am. Then I look at entrepreneurship wise, I went through being, as I say, a hairdresser, own a couple of business, publishing company, going into nonprofits, and then I got bored with the doctorate. So I went to New England Conservatory of Music and, got a degree there and did lessons over at voice lessons at Berkeley. So I became a jazz artist.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that in the chat? Did y'all hear Dr. Brown said she she got bored with the doctorate?
I did.
She decided to go and flip the script.
Yeah.
And went to the conservatory.
Yeah. New England Conservatory of Music in Berkeley.
And took voice lessons and became a jazz artist. You better
a jazz artist. You know the amazing thing about the Coach La, when I was singing in different venues,
yes,
there was always one guy and they never looked like me. In any instance I was in, and my stage name is Dr. B. And every time after I got off the stage, it would always somebody say, oh, your stage name is Dr. B. Are you a real doctor? Ha ha ha. I said, yes, I am.
I love it.
He says, and so where did you learn to sing? At home on the corner? I said, no, New England Conservatory of Music, and I took voice lessons at Berkeley. Then I said, you know what? But I'm the one that you can't take home.
I love it. Listen, right there. She dropping all types of mics on them, right?
But it's so disrespectful to you to and that's where your self-worth. It's so disrespectful for somebody to assume you don't know until you ask them.
Right.
So I don't judge people. You come to me as you are. I can learn from you. I can learn from an ant. I'm an educator. I'm always looking to learn. And if I'm wrong, please tell me. I have no problem with it.
I think one of the things I love about what you said is being a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to try different things. Often we get put in a box, like if you are a doctorate of education and that's all you should do. No. If you're a singer, then that's all you should do. No. And I think one of the beautiful things where I think we connected is having the fortitude to try different things, different interests, because we just want to. And I think that is the epitome of Bet on Self, right? It's like, I want to go learn how to sing. I'm going to go take lessons. I want to learn computers. I'm going to go take a computer class. Don't let anything stop you from trying something. As long as you have breath in your lungs, you have the ability to bet on self and to try something.
Especially ladies and sisters. You all have to push past it. I mean, we live in an environment where it's male dominant. We all know that. We can get in it and we can get out, but we need to see who we are for a change. We're not only just mothers. We're not only just, parents. We have a person it's a soul inside of us, and there's a person inside you. You're gonna fail. Failure is nothing but success turned upside down.
Ooh,
If
ooh,
you fail, you will succeed. And people who are doing well, those are the people who've done the most failure and they learn from the mistakes. So don't let something, well, somebody, and we always had this as women. I have to say this for all women, that we're always told we can't do this, we can't do that. You don't know unless you try it.
right.
I mean, when I go places, I introduce myself last on purpose because I'm usually the only one in the crowd who looks like me. And everybody's like, ha 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 ha, ha. And then they say at the end, well, we forgot you. Oh, by the way, who are you? I said, my name is Dr. Carol Brown. Now everybody wants to converse with me. But I says, no, I'm not going to work with you because prior to you knowing this, you kind of pushed me to the side and you kind of was very disrespectful. So that young lady over there who we vibed with, I want to work with you. And that, that's we all need to see. Everybody has a gift, everybody has a talent.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, go for it. Don't be scared. You're gonna fail. You will fail,
Yes.
and that will be your success.
Right. I always say I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna learn.
There's no such thing as losing.
Right. I'm gonna win or I'm gonna learn.
Yeah.
And if you think about electricity, you think about any invention. What they don't tell you is about all the times that it didn't work. Right. And often that's all we see. One of the reasons why I wanted to create conversations with Coach Law was for that reason too, is to bring all types of people that you try to judge a book by its cover.
You can't.
Most of us don't look like what we've been through.
No,
We
we
really
don't.
don't.
We don't. You would never think that I was assistant principal dealing with middle and high school kids and getting along with all of them. I mean, there's not a kid out there that I cannot get along with, even now that I'm retired. I see kids on the street, and they're doing something. I says, look, come here, son. I need to talk to you. As soon as I say son, they're like, okay, miss, what you want? This is the same person who just cussing and swearing and doing all. I said,
Right,
come here, son. Come here. I need to talk to you. It's like,
right.
so anybody's reachable. You just have to think about how you're reaching them. And
Mhm.
especially for our kids of color, you can't reach them in a negative vibe because you will get negativity back.
Talk about that.
And the only
That's
reason why
so
I get them because I would say, come here, young lady, or come here, son. It,
mm,
it breaks everything down. Now they'll listen to me.
so true. So true.
Mhm.
Which is a great segue to talk about our topic tonight. And, I want to ask people to sort of think about this and take a minute to ask yourself, have you or someone experienced bullying? Because a lot of the things that are tied to what me and Dr. Brown are talking about, believe it or not, there's like little crumbs that take you back to people's childhood. And this sense of self-worth starts often in grade and middle school. And so tonight's topic is so important because it's um, National Bullying Prevention Month.
Sure is.
On October 13th, we had the National Stop Bullying
Hmm.
Day.
You sure
And
did.
so all that being said, like this month is also the second month the kids have been in school. So this is a pivotal point that a lot of kids either already, because we've been at home, kids have not been really going to school because of COVID. They're all now being socialized with each other. Some parents out there might already be experiencing or hearing their kids come home talking about this, or parents school may have called and said your kid is the one doing the bullying. So we thought it would be a great conversation to sort of unpack this and sort of bring this to the forefront. So, Dr. Brown,
Let's go
let's
there. I'm
tell,
ready.
tell us, why should we be concerned about bullying first off? Like,
Well, here's the thing. And you said something. You're in your second month of school. By now, the bullies have already picked who they're going to bully. It usually starts in elementary school. Believe it or not, second, third grade. This is mine. This is not yours. Give me that. Um, you have a new pair of sneakers on. You got a nice shiny light, lunchbox, and I don't have it. Bullying starts at a very young age, and by now, parents already know who is being bullied. The kids have already come home in October telling them so and so is bothering them, or the bully is going home very quietly and not saying anything because they don't want to be exposed to even to their parents. So it's important for us to pay attention to bullying because it's just psychological damage that it does at a young age. Uh, and it in turn goes into adulthood. People are getting counseling right now because of bullying from the past. You would think one would, get rid of it or it would lead them. But I'm
Mhm.
finding out from counselors, many counselors, that
Right.
it's still there. And bullying is bullying is hard because it really honestly it should be a crime because the psychological damage it done. And in my book, I talk about the newsworthy people who committed suicide from
Mhm.
being bullied. But there's a whole lot of people who are not speaking up. Your child's being bullied if they come home and they're disheveled, their clothes are messed up. If your child's being bullied if they all of a sudden say they fell down and hit their face and they have a bruise on their face or a black eye.
Mhm.
If your child's been bullied who went to school with long hair and now it's short on one side because someone cut it with scissors. If your child's been bullied because they come home and they eat as soon as they walk in the door. Why? Because the bully took the lunch money. So there's things that you need to, it's very, to me, it's very obvious. I was a middle school assistant principal and a director of instruction. And when kids came to of course, I was a disciplinarian in the building.
Mhm.
And when kids come to my office, the two kids, someone had a fight and two kids come to my office, I know who the bully is when they walk in the door.
Mm. You
Well,
were saying that you
yeah.
know, you could identify that. I want you to also just shed some light. So you did a trilogy of books
Mhm.
as an educator to address these things. I wanna make sure we put that out there too so that people know,
Oh, sure.
exactly about the books that you put together. And strolling down at the bottom, you can find Dr. Brown's books. But the first book that you brought or that you wrote was Thick Bones: A
Yes.
Cause of and Cures for Teen Obesity. And one of the major reasons why a lot of kids get bullied is around their weight.
Yes.
And so one of your first books was talking about that and candid conversations amongst your characters, right?
Yes.
So, and then the next book after that was the second one, Why is Everyone Always Bullying Me? Which took it to the next level to talk more about the conversations that young people were having on how to address bullying, right?
Mhm.
And then the last one in the trilogy was Colorism, which for us brown folks, right? She brought up the
Yeah.
texture of your hair, your skin tone.
Yeah.
Other thing that was I know when I was growing up, that was something a lot of people paid. Good hair, bad
Yeah.
hair, fair skin versus dark skin. Like a lot of these things were where people found difference amongst us as people of color to point out and to bully you. I saw a video with Viola Davis, and she, once again, there's always this narrative as a dark skinned woman, um, being told, either you're pretty for a dark skinned woman or not feeling pretty, not having a certain hair texture, and all of those things have a big impact on self esteem and a sense of self worth.
When you just said about Viola Davis, I just got chills on my body because I have heard, being my complexion, I have heard both sides because I'm not the light skinned sister and I'm not the dark skinned sister. So I was the sister that everybody just left alone, let them. So I heard from both sides.
Mhm.
And what bothered me the most, that bothered me, I have dark skinned sisters. So it bothered me. And one of my sisters told me, you know what? You may be that light skinned long hair girl, but you are only doing as good as your dark skinned friend. If your dark skinned girlfriend ain't doing good, you're not doing good because they're thinking the same thing about you, but they're just not saying it. So, what bothered me the most about that whole scenario is that when they tell a girl, oh, you're pretty to be dark. What the heck does that mean?
Mhm.
I mean, how degrading. And the bad thing about it, the person who's speaking thinks they're giving them a compliment.
Yeah,
That's so degrading.
it's a backhanded compliment. It
How are you
is.
gonna tell somebody they look good because they're dark? Oh, you look good for a dark person. Well, then you should take it back and don't say I look good because the part you put on the end of it is what you was really saying.
Right. You're looking at me saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, she's dark."
Yeah. So
But
she's
but
not good.
you
But I'm
don't
gonna
really
tell you
think
something.
she's pretty.
The
Yes.
chocolate sisters are the prettiest ones I can think of.
Yes.
The
Well,
closer you out to Hershey drop, the cuter you are. And don't let nobody tell you nothing different.
I know that's right. So
Okay.
one of the things you talked about too was those being, narratives from colonialism,
Yes.
European standards, and
Yes.
your book also goes into a lot of the historical um, moments for Black people, around civil rights and Jim Crow and all of these different things. All of these. So these are some great books, parents, educators that's listening is and is strolling down at the bottom. It's I don't want to say it wrong.
It's Lorac Publishing Company.
Lorac.
It's
Lorac.
Carol spelled backwards, actually. So it's Lorac.
Oh, what a creative
I
way.
mean, Oprah did it. Come
Yes,
on.
I love it. Lorac
Well,
Publishing
Harpo.
Company.com is
Yeah.
where you go so that you can purchase her books. But these are some great books to donate to a school. If
Yeah.
you are a parent, you could donate them to a school, and they all have all of the credentials. Break those credentials down, because on the back of the book it says it's in alignment with whatever. I won't say this
Okay,
right.
it's in alignment with it's alignment with the
Yeah.
curriculum and social emotional learning. Kids learn in different ways. Some kids learn by lecture. Some kids learn by hands-on, which I'm one of those. And some kids, everybody has their own way of there's visual learners also.
Mhm.
So social emotional learning, it goes right to the core of learning. It goes to your most basic learning, and it addresses the whole child. So it addresses them socially, that you would deal with, emotionally, and academically. So therefore, when you're dealing with a social in a social emotional environment, you are educating the whole child. You're educating them as far as their social, emotional, academic, physical, everything. So it aligns with that. So what I try to do in all my books is as a young lady, we weren't taught a lot of the things in history. We thought that, Abraham Lincoln did this. We thought our Native American brothers and sisters, were called Indians. How disrespectful. So the thing about it is I try to take the history and Emancipation Proclamation. I didn't understand that. So what I did with my characters, I had them ask the question, well, what is Emancipation Proclamation? Someone said, you don't know what that is? Yeah. So, and then I break it down so minute that anybody can understand it. So basically, in each one of my books, I'm given a sense of history so you understand. When it comes to of the teen obesity, it was two young ladies walking down the hall, and they didn't have. I thought they were teachers because they didn't have passes in hand. When I got up, approached them, they were young ladies.
Mhm.
Wow, they were big, they were bullied, they was bothered. So I started a program at the school, and we did early morning physical activities. We would do, what is it called, salsa dancing in the morning before a class,
Zumba.
Zumba,
Zumba.
and then at lunchtime I would do it again. And then and I talk about the history of of obesity. I come from 5 generations of obese women,
Okay.
so if you look at me, I'm about a size 6. But trust me, I know everything about being obese. I know everything about a diet you can think of. I know everything about eating well because I lived it in my house. So when I write stuff about obesity, they say, well, who is she to have that conversation? I come from 5 generational obese women, and I chose not to be obese because it's in my blood. Could I be obese? I guess I could. Then,
Maybe. Sometimes, I mean, in my family, we got a little bit of everything. We got the slim goodies, we got the big bones. Everybody's body structure is a little bit different.
and it's
So
all okay.
it is all
And
okay.
this is what people need to know. You might not be a size 6, but you're the best size 14 you can be. You're the best size 22 you can be. So what? It's not about your exterior, it's about as you get older, you find it's more about your interior that people are looking for. That whole exterior thing is such a farce.
Okay.
Beauty is really skin deep. And you know what? Being cute is overplayed. So don't let that cute. Well, what is cute? Who the hell knows what cute is? What's cute
And
to me not be cute to you.
And most of us have been so bombarded by what other people's standards of beauty are. I
Yes.
often wonder, do we really know? Me and my sister was having a debate that children know what they like and what they don't like. And my pushback was, but do they really?
They
Because
really don't know.
we teach our children by how we respond to things on what's acceptable and what's not. So one of the things you also, taught me today, because we were looking at and speaking about what you were going to talk about, is just some of the statistics, right, around what
Yeah.
they report from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, that 1 in 5 high school students report being bullied on school property, and that
Yes.
bullying is so common.
Bullying is
So
very common. What happens is that, like I said, by October, the bullies know where all the corners are they're going to beat somebody and take their money from. They know all the hideouts. They know what time the teachers come into the hallway and transition. They know what time they go to the bathroom, and they know what time the victim goes to the bathroom because they study them. It's like they're being studied. Once they find that a person is a loner, don't have family members who are going to support them in a fight, somebody who's going to cow down to them.
mm,
That's the prey. I mean, perfect person. And another thing, and I have to say, Coach, I think we talked about it earlier. A lot of bullying is also socio-economical.
I was about to ask you that, like, why
Yeah.
would
Why?
someone want to, study someone and sort of target them this way at such a young age?
Well, what happens is several reasons. One of the reasons they've been bullied themselves. So now they got tired of being bullied and they turned from being the victim to the perpetrator. That's one of them. Another one is basic economics. I mean, I go to school and you got Oreos every day and I got the no brand cookies, or I got on Bobo sneakers and you have on Nikes and Adidas and stuff. If that's you're still wearing the Adidas nowadays, your attire, you got on a North Face jacket and I got on something from Woolworths or from one of the old stores back in the day. Those things make, lunch money. You got a kid who comes to school with a submarine sandwich every day and you got a peanut butter and jelly. Those kind of things play on a kid if they're not having poverty is just devastating. Poverty makes people do things that they don't want to do. You see a lot of kids when you see kids out there and kids selling drugs. They're selling drugs so they can look like the rest of the masses who have the sneakers, who has the cars and stuff. They don't want to, but they have to keep up, as we call it back in the day, keeping up with the Joneses, and they don't want to look like they're poor because they are. I mean, I grew up poor. I get it. There's nothing nobody can tell me about being poor because I know about it. I chose not to have my kids ever see poverty. But
Right.
it was a choice. It's one of those moments you were talking about. You
Mhm.
said, what you call it? Bet
Bet on self, bet on
on
self.
self. I decided not to let that happen because I know the ramifications of growing up in poverty. It's not good. It's not healthy. And when you watch, the president trying to give money like during the COVID issue, giving people the money to make them feel okay going through that, and they was trying to balance the system, and people were doing good. Did they want to work anymore? I don't know. I don't. But we're not going to talk about that.
Somebody else brought that up. Like, I mean, not to totally digress, but I think a lot of people probably are tired and burnt out from working.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that you also shared was that 1 in 6 high school students also reported being bullied electronically via social media, which is another big issue. A lot of people get very bold. I even was listening to my young nephew who's 9. A
Mhm.
lot of the bullying and the name calling happening over the video games where they're calling each other really derogatory names. So it is definitely an issue,
Let's
right?
take it one step further, though, Coach Lau. The thing about when you're being physically beat up, it's over. If you're being socially, emotionally beat up, they call you a bunch of words and names and stuff, and it's over. If you're being, if somebody's, cyberbullying is a little bit different
Because it
because it
stays
never turns off.
Yeah,
It never
and it
turns off.
stays there.
You
It's
can
a
go,
permanent footprint that you can't
yes,
delete.
yes, and you can go on your social media and you think it's over, and somebody gave you the finger, something crazy, whatever they know you don't like, they're gonna do. So
Mhm.
I think cyberbullying is one of the worst because it's continuous. It follows you around, and the thing about it, you used to tell one person you beat this person up. Now everybody knows it, and this is where you find those kids who come back and burn up people's houses, and they come back and they beat the hell out of everybody because they're angry. They can't get away from it. And for them not being able to get away from it, they strike out. I mean, the kids, what do you expect?
Right, right. I think, the interesting thing that you brought back was about the social, economic pieces and kids being able to see you got the cookies that I want, you're wearing the sneakers that, I want, and the have and have nots being the fuel that starts the picking on each other. And, I think it escalates when there's no one to intercede, because there was also a time where it
Yes.
seemed like that was just the norm, right? There was almost like, well, you know what, just go back and fight them, kind of thing. Like nobody really was coming to protect you from bullying. It was just something that I think most people, and then if the chat, if you've experienced it, most people just had to deal with it.
Yeah, but you know what? There's help for bullies. There's different members in a bullying situation. It's the bully himself, the victim, the bystander. The bystander sees everything. They stand by and watch it, and they make a conscious decision to either say something about it or not. So the bystander is one of the most important person in a bully situation because they have a choice. And then you have the upstander who's going to say, no, you're not going to beat him up. He's my friend, or he didn't do that. He's the quiet guy. He's the nerd who usually is the ones making all the money later on in life. He's the nerd. You got young children, ladies and gentlemen, have them date a nerd because they're going to take care when they get older.
I have to kind of, agree. A lot of the people that wasn't necessarily the cool ones, a lot of times, make it out. Also, sometimes the bullies too.
Well, let me just tell you about the bullies. The bullies transform after a certain age, or they should. After a certain age, a bully usually understands that this ain't cool no more. I mean, I really hurt him, or he could have been hurt, or they'll hear from the friend, so-and-so was going to commit suicide because you beat him up. That will make a bully. If that doesn't make a bully stop, they need to come see you. Because the thing about it, if somebody tells me that a bully, if I was the bully, and they told me that, so-and-so was going to commit suicide because you beat him up, that I'd been scared straight. I'd been scared straight. And if you told me to touch somebody else, I'd cry. Bullies get to a point where something happens, or the bully meets their match, because for every bully, there's a bigger and badder bully out there, and somebody turned them into the victim, and now they can understand what they've done to people in the past, and that usually bullies reform.
So they get a dose of their own medicine.
They do, yes, and you know what? The medicine is nasty, and it tastes worse than castor oil.
And
so
they
understand.
What we talked about earlier, Dr. Brown, is how this translates into adulthood, right? And we were saying that often a lot of these behaviors, just like when we talk about attachment styles and just a lot of other things that therapists talk about, a lot of this stuff trickles on into life, right? And you can become a bully at work, right? You may be a bully in your relationship with your partner, right? Like some of these behaviors don't just go away.
They don't. And you know what happens? You know what else happens? The person who was bullied now finds a mate because bullying is about power. Okay. They find somebody that has less power. So they'll always date somebody who is not as strong as they are. And then they become the bully, and their mate or their husband you hear about women beating guys' butt?
Yes, I have. Yes.
And that's what, if you can pierce back the veil and look in their past, somebody was doing that to them. Just like, also bullying, there's sexual bullying, the power over a woman, and nowadays over boys. So, it's a whole power issue. And then the victim grows up, and then there's a person you see on TV, doing wrong things to women, or if they're from the gay community, it's somebody who is gay. So you're right. It doesn't disappear. It transforms itself into someone else. Workplace bullying, that's the one. that is, somebody tried to workplace bully me at one point, and I really didn't care for it. But I told them, I took them to ladies' and said, listen, you can't do that to me. I'm
Mm.
not that girl. But what they do is, they've been there for 50,000 years. This is all they ever knew. They didn't get it, the raises or the promotions through education. They got them because they was there forever and a day, like
Yeah.
we did with Verizon and the telephone company way back then when they were different names. But so you come in as a new girl on the block or the new guy on the block, and they treat you like a stepchild. You only going there to work to feed your damn family. Why you got to bother me? But
Mhm.
that was tried with me a whole lot in the school district I was in. But I just Bill basically said, "Excuse me and you need to talk." I went in there looking like
They didn't know who they was talking to.
they didn't. So I said, you know what? I come, and the kids would say, "Well, Dr. Brown, why you coming today dressed as a suit?" And because I'm your role model. But by me being the children's role model, the bullies in the workplace thought I was just, I guess, a wimp. I don't know. And I have conversations. I only have one conversation.
That we talk a lot about just like women, and there was a comment that I heard about women moving differently than men, and the mean girls dynamic and some of the things that will happen amongst women. I know a lot of these different things about being pretty, the pretty girls all hanging together and sort of picking girls to bully, like all of those things, cutting the girl's hair that was the pretty girl because she's there by herself and she's the pretty girl. So a lot
Yep.
of times I think a lot of pretty girls were probably bullied as well,
Oh
right?
yes.
Where, they were
Oh yeah.
picked on just for being pretty, and that creates a lot of issues for a lot of women as well, where you're like, no one ever likes me, so I don't like girls because I was the pretty girl and no one liked me. So there's just so many, I will say, residuals that kind of have lingered, I think, into adulthood that affect us. And most of my clients, female clients,
Yeah.
have a story about being
Yeah.
bullied. Like,
Yeah.
if I think about 90% of my practice is women, and I would say majority of them have said that at some point in their life when they were a kid that they got bullied.
Yeah. The pretty girl always gets bullied. Why? Because not to their liking. The guys want to date them. They want to be around. They want to hang. They want to just be around them. And for other people who don't feel that they're pretty, and that's on them. Everybody's pretty in their own light. You do
Mhm.
what you do. That's who you are, and deal with it. Make the best of it. But the light skin long hair girls just get beat up all the time. I mean, people just come to school just to beat them up. But a lot of them turn real tough too. As
I
those
was gonna say that often surprisingly, because you had to fight all the time,
they
those
turn real tough.
those that would turn around, or they would turn into bullies themselves because maybe they were getting bullied like in more in elementary school. By the time they got to middle and high school, they
They
wasn't
weren't
having.
having it. They said, "I'm not having it.
Yeah,
I'm just not having it." And you know what? You will always see a little cute gang of girls in middle and high school, and they couldn't beat you up by themselves, but together they can rock a house because they say, you're not. I know you can beat me by myself because you're
yeah.
who you are, but you can't beat three of us. And they used to walk in packs. In middle school, in some of the middle school I was in Massachusetts, them girls walk in packs, and they were deadly. I mean, they came to my office to be suspended, they did some real damage to somebody.
And the other piece when we think about some of the community violence and also the surge of gangs, a lot of that too was very much connected to bullying,
Of course it
right?
was. Of course it was. So what happens with the gang members is that the gang member majority of the gang members were bullied. And this is they formed that same pact that the pretty girls formed. Okay, you can beat me by yourself, by myself, but you can't beat me with six others with a knife and a gun. So therefore, I'm going to hang with them because it was almost like having your own policing, you
Mhm,
know, for that person who was a victim, their gang was their own policing.
mhm.
And they know that they had their back and once they do that pledge, they will die for each other. And
Right.
so that person who, as they were called back in the school, he was a little sissy or the punk, or she was a sissy or the punk being a girl, Once they got in those games, they were the most notorious, deadliest people there because they're now fending off all the people who have bullied them in the past. And if you cross them, you have a problem because majority of them in that group could have been in the same scenario. So now you got 3 or 4 deadly people.
Right. And I think you said something earlier when you talked about being targeted because you don't have any support or
Yes.
you're alone.
Yeah.
And
Loners get it all the time because, a bully sits back and again, by October, they'll sit back and they know who your friends are. You done told somebody you're from so-and-so town and you only got one brother or you only got sisters. She only got sisters. Well, she's the one I'm going to get. And then you're targeted. I mean, you got a target on your back. I'm going to get you. And if
and
you
that's I
don't
think
have no money, don't have no money.
I think for parents, and I'm sure there's a lot of parents listening.
Yeah.
It's tough to know this. And if you were bullied yourself and you know that some of what Dr. Brown is talking about is really real. I mean, it's really hard to hear, but this is things that I think as a community, knowing about the have and have nots, sort of looking at that child that's the one that's by themselves, we need to do a better job as adults to help advocate and keep our kids safe. And that can be from educators, people in the school. We have to do a better job of making sure kids are not targeted. And I think there is a shift happening, which takes me to the next thing. Is it preventable?
It is preventable. Bullying is preventable as long as you have parents. You got to listen to this. You might not want to hear it, but you got to listen. You have to listen to your kids. I can't say it no other way. I was in middle school and high school for over 16 years as administrator. And I said, well, did you tell your parents? They won't listen. I've heard it too many times. I almost found myself out there ready to fight with one kid to keep everybody else from bothering him. So I was telling him, look, you know what? He's bothering you. I'm on your side. And I go to the kid and say, you're going to bully him? Well, I'm on his side. It stops the bullying because an adult knows about it. All your kids have to do is let an adult know about it. And if you don't want to listen to it now, and parents get it. I get it. Sometimes we have 2 and 3 jobs. I get it. And you're too tired when you get home. I get it. But then have another responsible person that they can talk to, like your sister, who was their aunt, their uncles. All we need for you all to do is listen to them because they tell you every night they're being bullied just by coming in the door a certain way. Just by if you see them looking depressed and stuff, and this was a happy-go-lucky person, he's being or she is being bullied. She's not unhappy for no reason. I don't want to eat. I'm losing weight. And then that's when the drugs come in. It's all steps before, and parents, they bring it to you first. I know you're busy because I was a single parent. I get it. But you got to listen to your kids. And if you're not listening to them, you don't have the time, give them some extended family member to talk to. Make them you have a good relationship with that teacher. You have a good relationship with that administrator because the squeaky wheel gets the oil in school. If you're talking to a teacher all the time about your kid, they're going to watch their kid. If you're talking to the administrator about your kid and problems, let me tell you something. When an administrator or a teacher looks at your kid, they should see your face. That means you're doing your job. If they don't see your face when they're talking to your kid, you might want to get around the school a little bit more. If you have a lunch break, all they need to do is see you is 5 minutes. If I seen a parent for 5 minutes, I respected the hell out of them. Why? Because they took their lunchtime for something they're concerned about. We all have something in common. It's your child. There's an educational triangle. It's me, it's the school, the parent, and the kid. All 3 of those interlocking pieces must work to keep bullying down.
Well, I think you just made one of the key pieces is about listening and being observant with your children. And I think one of the things we talk about that happens in a very early age is that lack of self-awareness.
Yes.
And self-betrayal.
Yes.
And not being able to feel like your needs are being met or you're being heard. And this is one of those big ones because often I think kids suffer in silence. Yes. And just think no one's going to help. You see it in a lot of the movies where they're like, I don't want to tell you, it's only going to make it worse. Right. So
it does. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does. I've had kids come to my office and tell me, he's not going to listen. She's not going to listen. And, and they, and no disrespect to no parents, because I was a single parent. Again, I'll say that. We gotta listen to our kids. I mean, because parents, they're telling you, just observe the behavior. They go in the room and close the door, something's wrong. They're not hanging with their real friends, something's wrong. They don't want to go to school and they're sick all the time, something is wrong. You gotta look at them. If not, the bullying can persist, can continue. The teachers can prevent it, the administrators can prevent it, parents can prevent it, neighbors can prevent it, policemen, custodians, anybody on the street.
So it's
Anybody.
almost like don't be a bystander, be an upstander.
Being an
It's one of
upstand.
the ways. We have a question to Dr. Brown from Talise, and it's that what are the steps a parent should take with the school administration if the bully is continuous and unaddressed?
The steps a parent can take. Each school and each school district has a bullying policy, and it's a no nonsense for bullying. Each school signs off on it. Your kids are protected at school. Just have the conversation. All parents have to do is tell, or a child has to do is tell the administrator they're being bullied, and they usually will address it.
Right.
I mean, but they address it immediately. I've been in several schools, and when as administrator, somebody brings me a bullying problem, whatever I'm doing stops. If I have to go to a meeting, no. If I have to go, down to administrative building to do something, no. You have to stop right then and hear that child. Because if he's being bullied, he's not lying. Because it took a lot for him to come and tell you he was being or she was being bullied. So school administration, parents let the kid tell them. When the kid tells them, they will take a report. The report is taken very, very seriously because, again, a lot of our children are committing suicide behind bullying, more than what you think they are. You have your little kid at home and, you're doing all the great parental things and da-da-da-da. You got to give them the time to listen. We give them all these material things. All they need is time. A roof over their head, food, and time. All the material stuff is nothing, because what happens in this bullying situation with administration, kids tell it, they take a report, parents get involved. They call everybody in. Parents get involved. The other parent gets involved. They may not have the parents in together because you're not, you can't look at another child who's underage. You can't do that. Like, I can't come in and say your kid did this because I'm not supposed to see your child. But there's supposed to be meeting with both parents. They can be individual or conversations over the phone if the parent's working. But parents, you got to be involved because your kid's life is depending on it.
Agreed. So, Dr. Brown, we got 5 minutes left. Can you believe that the conversation?
Yeah, that went by too fast.
I know it moved.
Just having fun.
I know. So, some of the things that I want to make sure we leave some nuggets is observation. So, you need to pay attention.
Oh, please
being visible at the school, listening to your child. I think the other one I would say is paying attention for those that are being upstanders. What is the child that's being bullied? What is the thing that the other bully wants? Because you mentioned socioeconomic issues. So is it snacks, food? Is there something that the administration can do to level the playing field so that there isn't this big gap in have and have nots? One of the things that schools did was they made uniform policy.
So the uniform is the best thing in the world.
A lot of parents was upset about this, but a lot of the things that
uniforms save lives
is the uniforms, right?
That's right.
So a uniform policy was one of the things I saw that they did to level the playing field. Having lunch and snacks available for everybody, so it was the same thing everybody was getting. Right. Is another way that I see that they love it, the playing field, because back in the day, if you didn't have money, you didn't have no lunch. So yeah, you're gonna go and try to, it's survival of the fittest. So any other final thoughts that
what it is?
Find you, where can people find you on social media and all your platforms and things like that? If
I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram, I am on LinkedIn. You could always get in touch with me at lorecpublishing.com, www.lorecpublishing.com. You can see all my books there. I have the first 2 in Spanish. I'm trying to respect my Spanish sisters and brothers and let them understand it too. I'm available. I'm also available for conversations. I'm available for meetings. So I'm there. You can go on you get me either way, one of the social media groups, or you can get me through loracpublishing.com.
Yes, I love it. So you were gonna say something. I just wanted to make sure we got your plugs in there
You
because
you you made me forget, but
I'm sorry.
all I can say about the whole bullying issue is parents just be aware of your kid. You know your kid. That's I can't get around it. And when we're sitting down as far as administrators and teachers, we're saying, well, didn't the parents know? Because I know when a kid comes in disheveled. I know when it's cold outside and he don't have a coat on, and I know he left home with a coat.
Right.
Here's what I want to tell parents. I just caught it. My train of thought came back. Parents, don't make your kids stand out. If they're in a school and it's the majority of the population as they'll let under a certain income level, don't send your kid to school with a North Face. Don't send your kids to school with pockets full of money and the little diamond necklaces and stuff. It's only going to be taken. You have to check yourself. I know we want to give our kids more than we have, but in this situation, you can't do it because their lives depend on it. Somebody get them run a corner and choke them for it. It's not worth it. Make them as plain as day. Make them fit in with the environment. And then you're right. The best thing they could have did was Coach Lauer is they gave everybody the same thing. Peanut butter with cucumbers and stuff for snack in school because they couldn't fight about it. And we used to discourage the kids, tell the parents, don't let your kids bring chips and stuff. We didn't take chips and stuff in school. Nothing that we knew another kid couldn't afford, we didn't allow in school. So
Yeah.
we try to make everybody has a different personality, and all your children do, and I appreciate that. And I know you work hard, but you got to make them kind of fit in those situations to keep the bullying down.
Yeah, I mean, I think the have and have nots are always really challenging. I think that's a larger issue, maybe a conversation part two. But Dr. Brown, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm so glad
Yeah.
I got an opportunity to meet you. You guys make sure you go check out loracpublishing.com and follow her on all her social media handles because phenomenal. Get her to come speak at your school. Get the books, use the books. Information is so important. And as you guys know, keep having these conversations, carry this into the community with other parents. And you're tuned into the Urban Heat 98.1 FM, where we are radio with a purpose. And I'll see you guys next week for another episode of Conversations with Coach Law. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Dr. Brown, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, parents. Do your job, baby.
Here, it's been amazing. And I will have you back again, I'm sure.
Great. I'm sure
And
I'll
have
be
a
there.
wonderful evening.
Have a great one. The bell rang.
We are Boston's new home for classic R&B and hip hop. Urban Heat 98.1